Hi, it's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of satin ice. So they sent me all of this modeling chocolate, and today I'm going to start out using this ivory color. I absolutely love using the ivory as a base because you can dye it whatever color you want. And I will be doing a full review on all of the colors that I use in a separate video. But right now we are going to get into starting making this Baby Dory body. Now I will say that when I make characters that already exist, I always like to kind of interpret them as I see fit. I try not to do them exactly like they are. I like to put my little flair on it. And for times when I do want an exact figure replica, I just go for plastic figures instead. So I mix this up with 50% fondant and 50% modeling chocolate. I find it gives me a really nice base to work with. The reason that I use the fondant is just to firm it up a little bit, and the reason that I like to use the modeling chocolate is because it makes it a lot easier to smooth things out. So what I'm doing here is I'm making little indents for the eyes, and I want to indent this quite a bit because if you look at Baby Dory, which is what I'm basing this off of, she has really big bulging eyes, so we want to make those sockets nice and deep. I also want to carve out this mouth just a little bit, and this is where I find the fondant and modeling chocolate differ. As I carved that through, there was a smoothness to it. When I just have fondant, I find it gets a little bit more jagged. Then I'm going to fill in those eyes by using big eyeballs, just like I talked about earlier, because Dory's eyes pop out quite a bit when she's a young one. Now Dory is going to end up a little bit flatter on the bottom, as you can already see. If you wanted her to be a little bit more circular like how her body is, then what you could do is you could carve out all those details like I just showed you, and then you could lay her flat. And you would have to lay her flat probably for a while until she hardened up a bit, and then you would be able to continue working on the details. But I'm going to leave it like this because there's going to be lots of backgrounds and things that are going to go around her on the actual cake she's going on. Now what I'm doing is I'm making a little bit of a purple circle, and you'll notice that with all my circles today, I am not rolling it out and then cutting it out. I just like to use my fingers to create it. I find it's just much faster, and I like the more 3D effect that it comes out with. Then I'm going to cut off this back end here because we're going to attach that black tail portion later. I'm also going to indent on the top here as well. She appears to have these little kinds of lines on her, and you can also do this with airbrushing too. I just like to do it with this indenting. Really important that you don't let your fondant and modeling chocolate dry out before you get a chance to do this. And I will say that using 50% modeling chocolate also gives you a little bit more time. It's a little bit more forgiving than fondant is, where it doesn't dry out. In fact, modeling chocolate does get hard, but it's getting hard due to temperature and you stopping touching it. So it's not quite like fondant in that regard. Now I'm going to create her little fins, and you'll notice that I left off that black portion because for some of the black here, we are going to paint it on later. It just is much easier, and it gets a lot less messy. I find when I'm mixing a lot of the black fondant with other stuff, I have to make sure that my hands are super clean each time, or else I end up getting black residue everywhere. So in order to create that look, I think it's better for us to paint it on. Now what I'm doing is I'm adding on these little black details, and these are some of the things that are not on the original character, but I find it gives it a little bit more extra pop, and it makes things just a little bit neater. So as you saw there, I took a little bit of black fondant and I rolled it out, and then I created kind of some definition around that eye. And again, we're going in with some black fondant, and notice that piece of fondant actually started a lot smaller, and then I just keep pressing it in and pressing it in. I find this melds it together a little bit more than if I did it with a circular cookie cutter, because then I would end up with a stacked look instead of this melding together. And then we're going to add this little white dot, and I pretty much add these little white dots to any type of character eye that I do, because I always find when I don't add it, the character's eye then looks a little bit flat, and it doesn't have that bright personality that I know Dory has for sure. So now what I'm doing is I'm connecting everything, and this tail is actually just one big tail, of course, but we're going to attach it in sections so that we can get all of that coloring in. And again, I am going to go back in with this with a little bit of black edible paint to meld that all together, just the way that her actual tail looks. And we're going to meld that together with a little bit of that edible gel black black food coloring. This is Chef Master Black Food Coloring. I like it. It's very, very true to black. I find it doesn't go purple like some other types of brands that I've used, so that's why I continue to use it. And this is mixed in with a little bit of vodka. And I kind of am guessing at the shape of what Baby Dory's side looks like here. One of the difficulties that I sometimes have with characters is if I can't find pictures of every single angle. So that means that I kind of have to guess at what is going on. So I did look at some older pictures of Dory when she's an adult, and I just kind of copied the shape of this black pattern here. So I'm going to add on some blue fondant here, and this is a little bit of a creative liberty because when I look at the actual picture, it appears that everything is all one piece. You don't get this super big definition of this eyebrow portion, I guess you would call it, or eye socket portion. But the reason that I added that on was just to make sure that that black line was neat and tidy and you couldn't see any jagged pieces. Now our little Dory is almost finished, but she needs this fin on top. At least that's what I'm calling it. I'm sure there's a more technical name for this portion of the fish. And then we're going to add on these black lines. And again, if you're finding that this isn't going on smoothly, you probably just need a little bit more vodka on there. Or you can also use clear lemon extract if you're not a fan of using vodka, or if you're too young to get vodka. I love this part of character making where it's mostly finished and all you get to do is just do all of those little details to bring it all together. Now I will say the trickiest part of this character for some reason was that mouth area. I just wasn't happy with it. It wasn't as clean as I would like it. So I do end up adding on some little blue fondant pieces on the outer edge of that mouth just to tidy it up a little bit. Now little baby Dory is just sitting on a display cake. This is not the cake that she is permanently going to be on. I am going to be making different characters all throughout this week from Finding Dory and Finding Nemo. A lot of you guys ask me, what if I want to make fondant or modeling chocolate characters in advance? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place her on a tray in a cool, dry place. And then I'm also going to put some parchment just gently over her so that she doesn't get any fading going on because she will fade out if left in the sun. And the featured subscriber for today utilized my buttercream watercolor tutorial to create this amazingly beautiful jungle cake. I absolutely love all of those fondant characters on there. They tell such a story. So be sure to go and follow them and also drop them a like and a comment. And if you want to be featured and receive a shout out in one of my videos, then please go ahead and follow me at SD Bake Shop on Instagram, and please tag me in anything that you create using one of my tutorials and you could be featured next. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!